In the early modern era, there was a nation known as Circassia. During the early Middle Ages, the Circassians were converted to Christianity by Byzantine missionaries. In the 1400s, Enal the Great unified its many princedoms into a single state. Circassia, as a single nation, sought to maintain cordial ties with its northern neighbor, Russia. The two sides formed an alliance and worked together for a while during Ivan the Terrible's reign. The arrival of Islam ushered in a period of profound alteration. The Ottoman Empire accepted Circassia as a vassal state and protected it from the Tartars in exchange for tribute. Many Circassians made the switch to Islam during this period. However, as the Sultan broke his promise, they stopped making tribute payments altogether. Hey there, my fearless subscribers. Let's walk into history's greatest battles with no holds barred, and know a man who introduces fear in his presence alone. On one side, you have the Circassians, fierce warriors with an indomitable spirit, defending their homeland with every breath. And on the other side, you have the mighty Russians, hungry for expansion and eager to conquer. Please hit that subscribe button and let's get it on. In retaliation, the Ottomans committed 20,000 soldiers to a conquest that should have been easy pickings, but was instead soundly destroyed due to the better military tactics of the victorious forces. Russians, who had a staunch anti-Islam attitude, set their sights on Circassia only a few years after their initial win. Then Russia invaded, and for the next few decades, they conducted frequent raids on the country. It did not, of course, happen overnight. Between 1763 and 1864, the Circassians engaged in an endless string of battles with the Romanovs' Russia, which had been occupying their homeland. At times, they relied on the Ottoman Empire, and at other times they engaged in simultaneous battles with Moscow and Istanbul. 1.5 million Circassians, primarily Muslims, but also including Christians and pagans, still inhabited the area at the beginning of 1864. The Circassians' ultimate solution. At this point, the Russian government made its most extreme decision. It ordered the expulsion from those areas of all populations that had not become Russified, and of all citizens who had not undergone Orthodox Christian baptism in submission to the Moscow Patriarchate. The work of eliminating the presence of an ethnic group began at this point, a phenomenon that was tragically revived in the 20th century by the Ottomans against the Armenians, the Nazi fascists against the Jews, etc. The modern tactics used by the Tsarist military included ethnic cleansing, which involved burning entire Circassian villages, spreading disease on purpose, and sneakily entering cities and villages while flying a white flag before killing people. Between May 1864 and May 1867, an estimated 70% of the eastern Circassian population perished. Only 1/20th of the Circassians undoubtedly stayed in their homelands and consented to be Russified and baptized. The grim tale of an officer. In its waning years, Grigory Zass rose to the position of leader. Under his watch, genocide occurred, which is far worse than war. Using the analogy of wild animals, he turned fear into a weapon and unleashed widespread savagery on the Circassians. He would light entire villages on fire and then brag about it as a way to celebrate. He also enjoyed setting innocent people on fire. He enjoyed lighting men on fire in the streets for fun. Zass's monstrosity reached new heights. He intentionally disseminated disease, bayoneted pregnant women, and started mass rapes of women and children. He was also notorious for his collection of Circassian body parts, which he used for both personal ornamentation and to submit to academic researchers. His terror campaign killed nearly all of the Circassians. Colonel Grigory Zass dismembered the bodies of Circassian men and send their organs abroad for scientific experiments on subhuman subjects, which tragically became well known. Soon, Circassian skulls were being used in German universities for anatomical research. He took great care in this, washing and boiling the heads before gathering the skulls in his tent. According to witnesses, his soldiers were not shocked to see heads stuck in pikes outside his tent, waiting to be worked, because they had been trained to behead the corpses and send them to Zass. Many years later, Zass made it a point to correspond with Georg Andreas von Rosen, another German officer in the Tsarist army, praising him for having wiped out the Circassians. According to documents from the Ottoman public administration, about 1 million people were driven out of Russia and onto the Sublime Door, where the majority of them succumbed to disease and exhaustion within a few weeks. It was the first genocide. According to Professor Alexander Otov's comments, which were printed in the most prestigious Russian financial newspaper Kommersant, the extermination and expulsion of the Circassian peoples qualify as genocide. We must examine history in order to comprehend why we discuss genocide. Russian generals expelled and physically destroyed the Circassians during the Russo-Caucasian War. They not only killed them in battle, but they also set fire to hundreds of villages that contained civilians. They had no sympathy for the elderly, women, or children. Without regard for distinction, they killed and tortured them. To prevent the Circassians from returning to their homes, entire fields of ripe crops were burned, orchards were felled, and animals were set on fire. Isn't widespread destruction of the civilian population genocide? Last but not least, the Olympic village of Sochi, which the Circassians claimed to be their former capital, was erected by the exiles' descendants on the site of the last battle, which took place on May 21, 1864, and which allowed the Russian winners to start exterminating the Circassians. Let's take a moment to reflect on the untold suffering endured by the Circassian people under the iron grip of one man, Gregory Zass. Their story deserves to be told, their bravery celebrated, and their resilience recognized. Thank you for joining me on this breathtaking exploration of the Circassian and Russian War. And if you're a fan of epic adventures and mind-expanding knowledge, then smash that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and see you next time on my next video.